All right, what's up, guys? In today's video, we're talking about the CR-56 AMAX, the brand new GFUEL in Modern Warfare. I'm going to give you guys the best class setup for Warzone and multiplayer because they're going to play a little bit differently, as well as talking about what are all of the best attachments to use for this gun. It does have probably one of the most unique set of attachments besides the barrel category, so there's definitely a lot to cover. So if you guys learn anything new in this video, it does help you guys make a better class setup for this gun. Please make sure you guys leave a like on the video. And if you guys are new to the channel, 95% of you guys that watch the videos have not yet subscribed. So if you guys want the most in-depth class setup videos on YouTube, make sure you guys subscribe with those notifications turned on. The first thing we're talking about is the base stats of this gun. Most of you guys should know it runs on the 7.62 ammo, very similar to the SCAR and the AK, so it has a very high damage profile. The damage ranges are going to be somewhat on the low end. Your first damage range drop is going to be about 23 meters, with the second one being about 40 meters, which is actually pretty terrible. That does play a big difference in multiplayer, though, because your first damage range drop has no effect in multiplayer, which is what makes it excellent in multiplayer. Your damages are going to be 42, 38, and 33. So in Warzone, it's going to be a 6 to 8 shot kill. Obviously, in multiplayer, going to be a 3 to 4 shot kill. So it does lack a bit in range. The damage is excellent, but if you compare it to the SCAR and the AK, I definitely think it outclasses both of those guns. And the biggest reason why is the overall fire rate. Anyone's videos, they're all going to be somewhat different. We're just going to call the fire rate about 650 rounds per minute to give it a base overall fire rate, which is a lot faster than that of the SCAR and the AK, which is where it absolutely outclasses those. As far as your mobility, your aim down sight time is about 283 milliseconds, which is just a little bit slower than some of the other ARs. Stray speed about 48%, which is pretty average. Movement speed is about 94%, which is once again pretty average. So it's pretty average across the board as far as all the stats. Obviously pretty bad in range, but it makes up in that overall fire, which is what makes this gun excellent to me. If you guys are wondering if this gun is better than the Grau or the M4, the next video you guys will be watching is a full breakdown comparing this gun to the Grau and the M4, telling you guys whether or not it's better. So as far as some of the most important attachments, number one is obviously no stock. If you guys watched any of my most recent videos, no stock is the number one attachment you don't use. The two hidden positives it has is you get a 15% faster stray speed, which this gun is on the lower end for stray speed, so it's definitely excellent. I did very much find no stock to make this gun go from pretty good to amazing. You also get a 8% better hip fire, which is an excellent improvement because this is more of a close range gun. You also get about a 10% faster aim down sight time, so it takes your aim down sight time from slow to now on the level of all the other rifles, with about a 3% faster movement speed, which is obviously pretty average. But you get a lot more vertical kick, which is obviously this gun's somewhat vertical, so it doesn't really have the big of effect. I did not notice it when I stacked it in my best class setup. Your idle sway is slightly worse, which you will only notice if you stack with the attachment that makes your idle sway worse. So no stock is the number one attachment I recommend to pretty much start all of your class setups in multiplayer. If you're playing Warzone, obviously anything that makes your recoil worse, your idle sway worse, definitely don't recommend it. This is definitely only going to be built on a class setup that's built for rushing or mid to close range fights. The next one you're talking about is the longest long barrel. You're going to get about a 35% more range, a better recoil pattern, which you guys can see on the screen. The increase in range is somewhat on the lower end. Is definitely going to help out a lot because this is obviously a gun that has low range. I 100% recommend it used on every single class setup you're going to be using on this gun. You get about a 2 frame slower aim down sight time, which takes you from a little bit slower to now on this very slow end. Your movement speed is about 3% slower, which is definitely going to have a big effect. Your hip fire, which is another hidden stat, is about 30% worse, which is once average. And the biggest negative is your stray speed is about 12% slower, which is on the low end for the long barrel. So it kind of lacks in the positive it's going to get in the increase in range. Your aim down sight and your movement speed is not affected much, but your stray speed takes a big chunk. So I kind of wish this had a bit more range increase to kind of counter all the negatives it has. But like I said, it's definitely the number one attachment I recommend. Probably the only barrel you're going to be using. And for that reason, we're talking about the short barrel next. You get about a 1 frame faster aim down sight time, which is going to take you from 283 milliseconds to only about 267. So you're still on the slow end. Your movement speed is about 2% faster, which is definitely going to help out a lot. Your hip fire is only about 3% better, which is so minimal you won't notice it. You also get about 10% less range. And in my testing, this is the first time I'm going to be saying it, you do get a slower stray speed. Usually the biggest benefit of using a gun that has the short barrel is getting a better stray speed. you get a slower stray speed, which this gun already has a slow stray speed, so you're losing range or stray speed to get a slightly better mobility, which the gun already lacks. So this barrel basically does nothing. You get a worse recoil pattern and worse bullet velocity, so your overall range goes down by a lot. Your mobility barely gets increased, so I 100% recommend avoiding this attachment. And the other short barrel, which is the aim down sight barrel, most of you guys should know, you get about 10% worse range for a barely noticeable increase in your aim down sight time. 100% recommend avoiding this barrel as well. Now the next attachment is the Gatekeeper stock. This is an attachment that was previously only on the SCAR. They recently added it to this gun. What it does is basically gives you 0 idle sway. You also get a better walking steadiness. I'll showcase a little video clip on the screen now you guys can see of what the walking steadiness increases. This is definitely an excellent attachment for Warzone. And with this gun being a high damage weapon, your overall first shot accuracy is one of the most important things you're going to be going for as far as to get the best accuracy for it. So I definitely recommend it. But if you're using the long barrel, which has a 12% slower stray speed, these are the two worst attachments you can stack together. The Gatekeeper has about a 23% slower stray speed. When you compare that to no stock, which has 15%, and the long barrel has 12%, it's almost 2 times worse than both of those. So for that stray speed loss you get to get a slightly better accuracy, I 100% recommend avoiding this attachment. And as far as talking about the grips, I'm going to recommend the Commando probably as my best favorite grip for this gun due to the fact that it increases your stability, which is going to help your first shot accuracy, and it also increases your stabilization. So it's going for 2 big things that in my opinion factor into giving a gun with a high damage the best recoil. You guys can see this is the best class that I recommended for the gun. I did a test on all 4 of the grips, the Operator, the Ranger, the Merc, and the Commando, and the Commando is slightly more vertical, but the recoil pattern looks a lot more straight, which in my opinion, you're going to hit a lot more shots. And with a gun that has a very high damage, your overall accuracy is probably the most important thing to go for. So the Commando is definitely be number 1. As far as what class setup you should use the Merc for, if you're using a class setup that is going for the best rushing class, a close to mid-range class with no stock, definitely 100% recommend stacking no stock and Merc together. It's going to give you the best hip fire spread, which is going to help you in a lot more of your close range fights. But that's really the only reason to use it. The difference between the Merc and the Ranger is obviously the hip fire versus idle sway. They have the same stray speed, about 7% slower. And once again, like I said, with that Ranger getting a pretty good recoil pattern, also a better stability, I 100% recommend this. Is probably the second best grip to use. Is definitely going to help you out a lot. And as far as the difference between choosing the Operator versus the Ranger or the Merc, the Operator is going to give you a 1 frame slower aim down sight time, worse than the Ranger and the Merc, which give you only 1 frame slower. So the Operator is going to give you 2 frames slower, which on a gun that already has a pretty slow aim down sight time, I 100% recommend avoiding. And the last grip I'm talking about is the tactical foregrip. This is something I recently started using, and it's for a gun with a very high damage. Like, so the first shot accuracy is very, very important. It has a slightly vertical recoil pattern. So to put an attachment on there, if you have the long barrel and let's say no stock, you're going to get a great increase to your recoil already. So you could definitely put the tactical foregrip. You guys can see the difference before and after of the idle sway. The few times I was using this gun, I definitely felt myself melting people because my idle sway was 0. So when I pointed my gun and I was able to hit my first 2 shots, they pretty much died every time. So I definitely recommend this as one of the best attachments to use for it. So we're going to talk about the unique attachments, which is in the stock section. We're going to take a look at the skeleton, the CQC, the stability stock, and then the strafe stock. These are all pretty much, in my opinion, pretty good, but no stock is better. So I'm not really going to recommend these over the no stock. With the skeleton, you're getting a 1 frame faster aim down sight time for 20% faster stray speed. It's probably the best stock besides no stock to use. You get a faster aim down sight time and a significantly faster stray speed, which 100% makes this gun better. The CQC stock is only 2 frames faster aim down sight time, so the same as the no stock, but it does not get an increase to your movement speed. With the stability stock, you get a better idle sway, which helps out a lot, but you also get a 5% slower stray speed, which, like I said, no stock is probably the #1 attachment that I found use on. So I definitely would recommend this is probably the #2 stock to use. Idle sway is one of the most important factors on this gun to go for, and your stray speed is slightly slower, which you probably won't notice that much. As far as the strafe stock, you get about a 25% faster stray speed for a worse idle sway. It's definitely excellent, but you're better off using the skeleton or the no stock attachment. And obviously the 45 round mag, you get about a 1% slower movement speed. with a gun that has a somewhat faster fire than the other few guns. Definitely 100% no, the 45 round mag is going to be pretty much every class setup I use. And the monolith suppressor gives you 8% more range for a 2 frame slower aim down sight time. So if you compare it to that tactical suppressor, you're going to get no increase in range, but a 1 frame faster aim down sight time than monolithic. So I definitely recommend using the tactical. It's definitely going to make a big difference. Probably the first time I'm going to be recommending the tactical suppressor in a class setup video. So as far as some of those best class setups, the Warzone class is going to vary a little bit differently due to the fact that we're going to put the tac laser on there. Most of you guys should know the tac laser gives you a % increase off your aim down sight time, which is 100% going to help because this class is going to be built for the best accuracy. We're going to be using the monolith suppressor, obviously that long barrel to give you the best range, 45 round mag. And what we're going to be doing is stacking the Ranger foregrip with the tac laser to basically give you no idle sway. Also stacks, obviously, with that long barrel to give you the best recoil pattern. So you're going to get an insanely better accuracy, no idle sway, a lot less recoil. Your stray speed is going to go down by a lot, about 20% slower, which is going to have a pretty big effect. Your movement speed is going to go down by about 4%, which once again has a pretty big effect. Your overall aim down sight time is going to be about 3 frames slower, which is going to be about 333 milliseconds, which is on the slower end, about 10% slower than a normal class setup for Warzone. So you might notice it, but this class setup is going to be best built for long range. As far as the best multiplayer class setup, like I said, no stock is the best attachment for it. I'm going to be using the Commando foregrip, which I think stacks best with that long barrel to give you the best recoil pattern. We're going to be using the 45 round mag, the long barrel, no stock, and the monolith suppressor. If you compare all those stats, you're going to get a 3% faster stray speed, which helps a little bit. It's going to help for the mobility to close range. You're going to get obviously a little bit better hip fire spread, which is once going to help for close range. You're going to get only a 3% slower movement speed, which also is definitely a pretty good improvement. About 40% more range, a better recoil, and your aim down sight's only 2 frames slower. So a very minimal negative on the aim down sight time. The reason I use the Commando is obviously because it's going to help with that aim down sight time. So it's definitely probably the best class setup for rushing. Once again, like the other class setup, your aim down sight time is where you're once again lacking. But it's definitely probably the best class setup for me. I found the Commando foregrip to be my favorite attachment due to the fact that it helps your stabilization and your idle sway, which is obviously 2 of the best things to go for on a gun with a very high damage. That's pretty much it for the video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys use code Trapgod on all of your scuff and GFUEL purchases. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one.